The Alberta NDP, amidst their leadership race, is now campaigning on attacking basic property rights here in Alberta. And the NDP are doing it in the most sinister of ways, by claiming to help the poor by pitting homeowners against their tenants. And in the end, the poor will be worse off.
We need temporary rent control to make sure that everyone can keep a roof over their heads. I call on all MLAs, including my leadership colleagues, to join me in passionately supporting Janice's bill and calling on the Alberta legislature to enact it immediately.
You know, sometimes the World Economic Forum agenda must be forced onto people, crammed down their throats, if you will, when the little people won't willingly adopt it. You'll own nothing and be happy. Remember that? Well, do you actually own anything if the government can tell you who you can sell it to and what it's worth in the end? Not really.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
Rent control, or telling property owners what they must charge for their property, is socialism in one of its most pernicious NDP forms. Fake compassion for the less fortunate with a little side helping of class war.
So the exciting update that I have is that my bill, Bill 205, is going to be debated finally in the legislature this week. And that's exciting because Bill 205 is going to include rent caps. You probably know that Alberta is the biggest province in Canada that has no rent caps whatsoever. And that's pretty wild at a time when rents are increasing faster here in Edmonton and in Calgary than anywhere else across Canada.
Now, thanks to Liberal NDP policies, owning property in Alberta is more expensive than ever. The carbon tax is increasing again on April 1st to $80 a ton. That, of course, means utilities are going up.
And that's an easy thing for short-term politicians, short-term thinker politicians, to say, oh, we'll get rid of the price. They don't talk about the fact that they're also going to get rid of that check, the Canada carbon rebate, that puts more money in the pockets of the vast majority of Canadians. But my job is not to be popular. My job, although it helps, my job is to do the right things for Canada now and do the right things for Canadians a generation from now.
Mortgage rates are going up, and Canadian mortgage holders are facing the fastest and largest increase in rates in the last 40 years. Property taxes are going up all over Alberta. Calgary is up 8% in 2024. Edmonton is up 7% in 2024. Inflation and affordability are at crisis levels. So what do you think will happen if the NDP gets its way and they tell homeowner landlords that they have to eat all those increasing costs? I mean, landlords can only absorb those costs for so long until they get out of owning the rental property altogether. Maybe they sell it to a house flipper Liberal MP like Talib Noor Mohammed, whose predatory behavior drives up the cost of homeownership for everyone else. And there are plenty of examples of rent control going very, very wrong, creating slums, collapsing the rental supply, and driving away developers of large-scale affordable rental projects. A study in Ireland by economist Jim Power found that rent pressure zones, introduced in 2016 to limit rent price increases, have resulted in significant rent rigidities and an inefficient two-tier system where proper maintenance of rental properties is no longer economically viable. This has prompted many smaller landlords to exit the market and to be replaced by institutional landlords with new stock at higher rents. Did you get that? Rent control meant that smaller landlords couldn't afford the upkeep on their properties and forced smaller landlords out of the market so that the big multinational property owners moved in. And a 2018 study on rent control in San Francisco, of all places, found that leveraging new data tracking individuals' migration, the study authors found rent control increased renters' probabilities of staying at their addresses by nearly 20%. Landlords treated by rent control reduced rental housing supply by 15%, causing a 5.1% citywide rent increase. And Jeremy Cronick from the C.D. Howe Institute notes that developers who are debating whether to build condos or purpose-built rentals will choose the former, where there is no cap on the degree to which they can gain from their investment, or they will not build. I don't know if you've been in downtown Edmonton these days, but it's got its fair share of human suffering and misery with the homeless population there. The current Conservative government is doing its best to make it better, and I think they are, through access to treatment beds and dismantling the homeless encampments. But the NDP's ideas will make this worse by driving away potential landlords and developers, like socialist scarecrows standing out in a recently rezoned for residential development field. Rent control, in the end, hurts everyone, including those it's been prescribed to help. Because it's not about helping the poor, it's about controlling the people. You'll own nothing and be happy. And if you aren't happy and you complain about it too loudly, well, you can go to jail for a hate crime because this is Trudeau's Canada. Every communist needs to figure out what to do with the kulaks, the pesky land-owning peasant class. The NDP are doing just that. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. Rent control, a bad NDP idea, will create slums and reduce the housing supply, driving the poor to the streets. It's a bad progressive policy that will cause further decay in Alberta's progressive-run cities. To sign our petition against this, please go to fixourcities.com.